Recap, Pistons received Blake Griffin, Bryce Johnson, and Willie Reed. The Clippers received two starters in Avery Bradley and Tobias Harris. And the great Boban, along with two draft picks. Tracy, please, who is the biggest winner in this?
Well, I first want to start off with this. You're talking about a guy that really was the face to change this franchise around when he was drafted here. Gave them, what, 8 years, 8 great years. And for him to find out that he was traded, is so, like everybody else, is so disrespectful to this guy, you know, for everything that he did for this franchise.
That's foul.
I mean, that's very foul. However, I actually think both of these guys came out on top, really.
Okay.
Detroit, you get a, all-star type of player, and Blake Griffin, who you team up with Andre Drummond, who is, coming into his own. He's an all-star this year. And then on top of that, you have Clippers, who cleared a lot of space for this upcoming offseason. You have one guy that has a guaranteed contract, left on your team after this season. That's Danilo Gallinari.
That's it.
So you get, two starters in Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley. Although you got rid of Blake Griffin, you still have, value back that can keep you right there for a playoff push.
I think it was close, but I'm going to give the edge to the Clippers. For one, you get flexibility. Now you're not stuck with Blake Griffin's contract. Not that it was a bad thing, but like moving forward, you look at the Clippers, they weren't going to be in the top 4. They weren't beating Golden State. They weren't beating Houston. Who knows if they could beat OKC. But, that core has just not shown that it can get over the hump. Now you create flexibility in moving forward. You can say, all right, this is what we need. This is what we can do. We have money in the offseason. We can get draft picks now, and we can build for the future and possibly lining up some assets to get that player that we need so that we can probably contend with Golden State and the Houstons of the world in a few years.
Okay. As the fan up here, let me just tell you what I'm thinking as a fan about, oh, my God, how many years are you talking about? Because when you start saying picks and this and that.
When you trade a Blake Griffin, you definitely set your franchise back a few years. Now, they're not a contender, but what I'm saying, you have set yourself up for the future with flexibility. Just imagine going into next year. Say they sign DJ, you keep him with Blake. Now they don't have any flexibility to go out and get that other max player that they need to help them get over the top. You had CP, Blake, and DJ. Obviously, that did not work.
Which it should.
Here's the problem for the Clippers. They're the JV team in their own building in their own city. And had they not lost Chris Paul, guess what? They're still not better than the Warriors. They're still not better than the Houston Rockets. So it's a concession that we need to start all over. Detroit Pistons won this trade. Here's why. Because Blake Griffin gets a chance to play with Andre Drummond. And that's going to be a problem for Eastern Conference foes. Unlike the West, where there is a dominant team, we just discussed how the East is wide open.
Right.
Andre Drummond just had 20-20 last night and a handful of assists. That's what Blake Griffin gives you on a nightly basis. They're going to be pounding teams in that conference. And, Blake, I got to tell you one other thing. There is a lot going on in Detroit, sir.
You know what I will say, though?
Wait, that's it? You're not going to back it up?
There's not a lot of things you like to do.
What I will say for Blake now, I think as far as accolades, we're talking about being a perennial all-star, he has a better chance in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
Because you talk about the front court players in the West, Karl Anthony Towns, Boogie Cousins, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, like, he would have a hard time.
Well, as Paul George has learned.
Right.
It's a lot more different.
This is my thing. You look at the dynamic of the Detroit team. Now, you say Drummond and Blake Griffin. Now, what's the difference from Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan?
I just told you, they're in the Eastern Conference.
Eastern Conference.
Yeah, they're in the Eastern Conference.
There's no teams like Houston Rockets and Golden State that they have to compete against in the Eastern Conference that have that style of play.
And also, like, what has happened in the pace and space NBA, everybody wants to carbon copy the Golden State Warriors, but you don't have Draymond Green and Kevin Durant playing 4-5. So in the East, look who Cleveland has up front playing that position. Washington has up front. The Raptors. I like
basketball.
The Detroit 4-5 matchup against those guys.
I truly believe that when you looked in the camera, you were going to list off 1,000 things about Detroit that he needs to do.
Hey, we got a list of 1,000 things that you can't do in Detroit, Blake.
I was waiting for, like, wow. You need to get on that.
And he's with a team that owns them, that like as he mentioned, has passionate fans.
True.
Has a
You're trying to
terrific
sell Detroit
owner.
hard right here. Stop
It's my
it.
hometown. And
Stop it.
I wanted restaurants. I wanted everything.
All
They're in
You
Birmingham.
can't go from L.A. to try to sell Detroit.
Are you
Stop
serious
it.
right now?
They'll figure it out.
How many championships the Clippers got?
Oh, here we go. Okay, moving on.